Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. So we're finally starting to see a bit of a change in the 5-day look ahead. The next 2 or 3 days look like it's going to continue on the same trend of generally warm and very dry. However, as we head towards Friday and Saturday, the temperatures in the south are going to start to ramp up. It's looking likely now will exceed 25 degrees quite widely, perhaps nudging towards the high 20s come the weekend, and the risk of heavy rain and thunderstorms does increase. It's not guaranteed at this stage. There still is a lot of uncertainty. It's all going to be convection based, so very small differences could nudge things either way. So there's the risk of some big thunderstorms as we head towards the weekend, but at this stage we will just have to keep a very close eye on it. We'll have a look at the longer range forecast from the GFS, GEM, Eastern WF and the Ensemble, see what they have in store for beyond the next 5 days, as it is looking likely again this thundery weather and hot weather could hang around for a good few days through next weekend into the start of the following week. GFS again has some very high Cape levels, and all the runs are showing temperatures widely in excess of 25 degrees, if not nudging once again up towards that 30-degree mark. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, which you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in description. So do start on the live radar once again. You can see we've got a lot of heavy rain down towards southern Europe, and again it's this sort of air mass that is heading our way, and it's all going to allow those storms to potentially bubble up this weekend. But right now it's fairly dry and it is fairly warm. We do put in the temperatures as of around 4 p.m. Once again, slightly cooler conditions through parts of the East Midlands into eastern England in general. And again, that's because a bit of thicker cloud is moving in, but it should hopefully break apart over the next sort of couple of hours, hopefully in time for a decent sunset. But it has really held those temperatures down. It's been a recurring feature over this warm, dry spell we've had the last few weeks. But with the wind veering more from a southerly as we do head later this week, it will mean those eastern regions will start to warm up significantly. The best areas have been through western Scotland, western England, southwest England, most of Wales, the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, where we've seen temperatures once again into the low 20s, if not touching maybe mid-20s. But you can see across parts of France now that hot air is slowly heading our way, with area flow pressure sat down to the Azores, starting to draw up that southerly flow towards the UK. So if we do put on the UKV now and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, I'm not seeing too much thunder activity on the UKV yet, but there are signs right towards the end of this run. So if we do progress through the next sort of few hours, the next sort of 2 or 3 days in general, really not looking at too much. Again, some thicker cloud could be in the east tomorrow, and again, could hold those temperatures down. Maybe a few ice age showers for Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, again, popping off under some of that heat, but again, nothing too major. As we head into Wednesday, still cloud in the east, but hopefully should break apart in most areas. And as we slowly head into Thursday and then into Friday, you can see the wind direction changes and areas of rain, heavy rain, and potentially thunderstorms starting to appear right on the bottom of the chart. And even into Saturday, we do start to see some thunderstorms popping off, or at least some showers popping off through the early hours. Now again, this is not associated with any major convection. Again, this is occurring at midnight, Friday into Saturday, so it's just showing you that instability is now starting to pop off, and it's through Saturday and Sunday we have that risk of some thundery weather. Again, if we put on the mixed level Cape, nothing too crazy at this stage. Again, we'd expect it to really peak during the daylight hours, but we would expect that to rise significantly through Saturday, Sunday and Monday, which is what the GFS has, still slightly out of the UKV's range, so it'll be exciting to see what this has in store in tomorrow's video, and we do have a Saturday in the range. If you do look at the upper air temperatures though, the one sign that is getting a lot warmer is those upper air temperatures into the low teens here, 14 or 15 degrees at 850 HPA. When you add on the 15 degrees that you can generally do in the summer months, we're looking at high 20s, if not 30 degrees. The only caveat we have with that is if we do see cloud and thunderstorms pop off, then it will hold those temperatures down. So it will be very touch and go whether we do see very hot conditions. If it does stay dry, I do think we'll see hot conditions. If it does turn out to be quite thundery, then probably cooler, but still quite humid and oppressive. And if it's kind of in the middle where we do see some thundery conditions, but not completely widespread, then there'll be regions that are hot, other regions that are less so. If you do look at the max temperatures now, you'll be able to see once again today is another fairly average day compared to what we've had recently. Again, low 20s in the west, even touching mid-20s across the Republic of Ireland and eastern areas, more towards the high teens. Again, into tomorrow, another pretty decent day in most regions. Again, the far east still cool around the mid-teens. Further south and westwards, again, low 20s, maybe mid-20s again across the Republic of Ireland. Really the best spot we've had in this drier spell. If we do head into Wednesday, once again the temperature's rising even higher in southern England. The best areas now across the southwest, 24 to 26. Again, these areas will be seeing that warm air mass first, and you can start to see those temperatures starting to rise. And we expect eastern areas to start to warm up as well as that wind changes direction. Into Thursday, again that warmth is still there, 25, 26, slowly migrating northwards and eastwards. You can see parts of London, East Anglia now starting to get a bit warmer. Still northern areas slightly cooler. And you can see actually across Republic of Ireland it's cooling down slightly. That change in wind direction, it means we're going to put up slightly cooler air there, or at least not allow that heat to build as much. And finally into Friday, only afternoon, the latest afternoon we can see on this run. Look at that, through southern England, 25 to 28 degrees, quite widely there, just showing that heat is starting to build. And you expect through Saturday and Sunday that warmth to migrate even further northwards as this hot air slowly makes its way in. So you can see on the UKV here, we're just getting to the start, the first of 12 hours or so of this hotter and maybe more thundery spell of weather. We're seeing those mid to high 20s on Friday, and we're starting to see a few of those showers pop off through Friday evening into early hours of Saturday. But nothing too crazy yet, no 30 degrees yet on the UKV, and no major thunderstorms yet within the 5-day time frame. Just starting to see the risk appearing now. If you do go over to the GFS now and have a look what that does have in store, whether it is still going for quite a thundery setup, we can see high pressure is in control. We see the low pressure, which actually has been highlighted by the NHC, the National Hurricane Center over in the United States of America, for potential tropical developments. So that's very hot air wrapped around in this, potentially forming into a tropical low. Again, not too unusual for these to be forming, but this pretty early in the season, and to potentially come close to the UK, it would be an interesting development here. It's only got a 10% chance at the moment of that happening, but nevertheless an interesting development. But you can see as it does head northwards, it pulls southerly winds up from the near constant, and that's turning us hotter through later this working week. We stay in those southerly winds all the way through early next week, and we just stay in that warm, hot air for the foreseeable future, perhaps cooling down as the wind direction changes, but again still warmer than it is now, before eventually right at the extended range, things perhaps turn slightly cooler with a westerly flow. If we do run back to Friday, where we do have the nearest time frame from the UKV, so this is a period now where we are pretty unsure. If we have a look at the Cape, again this will indicate how much sort of energy there is in the atmosphere. You can see through Friday afternoon, very little, but quite high amounts through the near continent in parts of France. We move on 24 hours, and you see some significant Cape building not only in Central and Northern Europe, now into parts of England, down towards the southeast on Saturday. Move another 24 hours through Sunday evening. That Cape is more extensive through the United Kingdom, extending perhaps high amounts to the Republic of Ireland, even into Scotland, but the highest amounts again through Central England, Northern England, East Anglia, perhaps into parts of Wales, and that continues as we head into Monday as well. Significant Cape potentially developing more across Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Again, nothing compared to what we're seeing across Europe, but that's always more difficult as we are further northwards. So that hot air always is going to get degraded away, and that energy is going to get degraded away, but nevertheless pretty high Cape levels for the UK being seen here, before it does slowly start to peter out, but stays consistent there. So we wouldn't be seeing the complete eradication of any showers and thunderstorm risks, just perhaps not quite as high beyond that, but still some Cape levels around next week to potentially give the risk of some more storms. And we can see that if we look at the precipitation, you'll be able to see through Saturday, Some showers and storms breaking out and continuing, and it looks like they could develop in a line around the lower pressure, and we just see more showers pop off. And you can see this by every time we move the frame on 12 hours, showers pop in and out of existence, again indicating it is convection based and that it will be very much hit and miss. And if we have a look at the accumulated precipitation here, we do see some significant rain appearing for England and Wales. I wouldn't take this as gospel simply because it is still very uncertain, but just showing you the potential we could see a lot of rain in only a few days if we did see this sort of thundery outbreak happen. And you can see it through much of Europe here. And remember, there's no major low pressure system getting involved. The low pressure that's bringing that's been highlighted by the NHC is staying well out in the Atlantic, and you can see the heavy rain associated with that. All this rain through Europe is all convection based, all thunderstorm based. So we've got to keep a very close eye on it. If we just finish up by going to the 2 meter temperatures for the GFS and just have a look what it has for next weekend. So Saturday, widely 24, 25 degrees. Sunday, more towards the low 20s. Again, low 20s there. So you can see from the GFS, it's not actually getting that hot. Now this is because of the thunderstorms breaking out. It's got quite a lot of thunderstorms, and as I said earlier in the video, the more thunderstorms we see, the cooler the temperatures will be inevitably. So that is something we do need to keep an eye on. It would be quite hot and oppressive with this pattern, but the actual thermometer temperatures won't all be too high. If you go over to the GEM now and see what that has in comparison, again, high pressure dominating at the moment, low pressure running up from the southwest, colliding with that high pressure, perhaps more of a high pressure influence here, so we'd expect to see hotter temperatures but less thundery activity. We stay in this warmer spell all the way to day 10, where the upper temperatures are really quite high. Now you can see the hot air arriving through Friday into Saturday, perhaps potentially as high as 15 degrees, 850 HPA. It does slowly degrade away early next week, but still remains fairly warm. And we can see from the precipitation there could be some thundery activity, but a lot of it stays away, and most areas actually do stay dry for the UK with a lot of thundery activity across Europe. We are just under the higher pressure. So here it's going to be hot, but not quite as thundery. Now we can see this very well by putting on the 2 meter temperatures. And if we first run out to Friday, we'll be able to see the temperatures in the afternoon widely mid-20s or high 20s in the south. Into Saturday, even higher, 26 to 28 in the south, and into Sunday, rising even higher, once again, more widely though, more around the low to mid-20s widely, and again 25, 26, 27 in the far south, 30 degrees just across the channel. So we could be seeing those sort of temperatures arrive, again, very hit and miss. Into Monday, still very warm, widely mid to high 20s, and again into Tuesday, again, mid to high 20s. So we're not seeing any widespread 30s here, widespread sort of 25 to 28s here, and again locally could be 29 or 30, but markedly warmer than the GFS due to the lack of thunderstorms in comparison, as the low pressure does keep away. So you can see the two different scenarios here. GM definitely on the warm, hot, dry end, the GFS on the slightly cooler, still oppressive, but cooler on the thermometer, but much more thundery sort of pattern. If we have a look at the ECM-WF and see how that does compare, again, high pressure dominating at the moment, low pressure running up against it, and you'd expect this to be kind of in between the GM and the GFS, looking at the positioning of the low pressure, and right out to day 10, we keep with that southeasterly wind, keeping us probably pretty warm, if not quite hot. If we do put on the upper air temperatures for this latest ECM-WF run, again, you can see the upper air temperatures rise above 10 degrees, 850 HPA, could get close to 15, but not quite as much of a warm air mass across Europe, so that could hold the temperatures down a little bit. And again, if we put on the precipitation through next week, you can see some thunderstorms breaking out. Perhaps not quite as widespread as the GFS, but nevertheless still a lot more activity than the GM had. And again, we look at the accumulated precipitation, you can see actually quite a lot of rain there, especially for the southwest, probably because that low pressure is slightly further away than it was on the GFS. It means all that rain and thunderstorms are positioned further westwards and southwards than where it was across parts of eastern England on the GFS. So you can see very, very difficult to forecast this. Very subtle shifts in the positioning of the low pressure by only a few hundred miles can make huge contrasts, whether you see a few thunderstorms, few odd showers, or major thunderstorm outbreaks with a good few inches of rain. Again, if we put on the 2 meter temperatures for this, you'd expect it again to be warm, but not quite as hot as the GM because of the thunderstorms. You can see through Saturday, High 20s being possible here in the east, 25, 26 degrees, very likely. And you can see, yeah, so 26 degrees at 3 p.m. If we head to Sunday, again, 25, 26 degrees being seen during the afternoon. Not quite as hot as the GM, but still very warm. By Monday, once again, 25, 26. So a couple of degrees cooler than the GM, but still warmer than the GFS, 24, 25 there. And that's probably the same into Wednesday as well. So it is turning hotter, turning more oppressive. Still dry, hopefully, in some regions, but the risk of thunderstorms does increase quite substantially. Whether it will be the GFS, which is going to be washout conditions for many areas with a lot of heavy thunderstorms and cooler conditions, whether it's going to be the ECMWF, where there's thunderstorms in places, especially in the south and the west, but still fairly warm further eastwards and northwards, or is it going to be the GM, where it's going to be kind of a heat wave scenario, where we keep those thunderstorms at bay, they stay just off the coast, down in the channel, or down to our southwest, and we see temperatures skyrocketing into the high 20s. We will just have to see. Very small shifts, as I said, will decide the outcome here. If you finish by looking at the ensembles, you can see the big peak in upper air temperatures later this week as we head towards Saturday and Sunday, around the low teens at 850 HP again, widely mid to high 20s in the south. It does slowly cool after that, but still will stay fairly warm, but you can see now more of a consistent precipitation signal. So even if it does stay fairly dry next weekend, there's going to be a risk of showers, and with this warmth, with this heat, thunderstorms as well. Again, if we look at the 2 meter temperatures, you can see peaking next weekend around the mid-20s, could be higher, could touch 30 degrees, but I think the most likely scenario here is mid to high 20s at the top temperature, and it does slowly peter off in the longer term, but still stays a lot warmer than it is now. It's like we were seeing a little bit of a step change here into more summer-like temperatures, proper summer-like temperatures, than what we've had now, which is warm, but just a few degrees below, widely few degrees below what we'd expect during the peak summer months, where that's widely sort of 20 to 22 degrees really for most regions. If you finish by looking at the ECMWF, again, just to compare what this is showing, and once again, you think those peak in upper air temperatures next weekend with higher precipitation as well. So a hotter and more thundery spell is looking quite likely now. We'll just have to see to what extent the heat is and to what extent we do see thunderstorms, as it could be really quite explosive next weekend. And again, very subtle shifts will decide what we're going to see. But regardless of exactly how it does play out, it's looking like we're going to be seeing a change. It's going to be getting hotter, going to be getting more oppressive, and there is going to be the risk of rain and thundery weather by the end of this working week into the weekend. So if you are enjoying this sort of warm but not too oppressively warm and very dry spell of weather, make sure you enjoy the rest of this working week, as we will be seeing a change towards the end of this week. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.